Happy Carnival, and welcome to another episode of Tales from the Parade Route. Today we have the tremendous honor of interviewing New Orleans historian and documenter, captain of one of the, I would say one of those key parades that, while it's not large in size, it seems like there's so many traditions surrounding this parade. So it's a tremendous honor. Miss Peggy Laborde, how are you?
I am fine. I must add, and I appreciate you calling us a parade, but as anyone who hasn't seen it and that would see it, and if we said parade, I think they'd be a little disappointed. So it's a question of semantics. It's actually a ride. And it's a ride that is taken by some folks who are Phunny Phorty Phellows, and not all are fellows, as you can well imagine. But we announce to one and all that Carnival has begun because it's 12th night. And so January the 6th, we consider ourselves really the ambassadors, if you will, of Carnival, the heralds of Carnival. But we start out at the Willis Street Car Barn, and then take the route, the historic route of the St. Charles streetcar. So here we are in an historic vehicle doing this. The Phunny Phorty Phellows dates back to 1870, the original PPP, dates back to 1878 through 1898. And they were all fellows, and they were a satirical organization that followed reps in Mardi Gras Day. In 1980, a group of us resurrected it, and then we were in the crew of clones for many years, and then came up with the concept of the streetcar.
So when did y'all officially start with the streetcar ride in this?
In 1982.
Okay.
I remember hearing a story a while back that the inspiration for the streetcar ride was actually a birthday celebration from one of your members?
A dear friend who was an early member of the crew's husband's birthday party, and we were invited to be on the ride, and we thought, well, wait a minute, this would make a lot of sense to do this, and we'd be our own, do our own unique thing. So we were in the clones, and then we just decided to, and eventually the clones sort of morphed into Crew de Vue, some of the clones.
Yeah.
And
I was wondering if that was the same crew.
Instead of doing that, we just took with our ride.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, I mean, you say it's a ride, but on the COVID year, you were actually the only ride. So we consider that a parade that year, because that was all we were getting.
You have a really great memory, sir. And let me say, we weren't doing that because we weren't following rules. We were at January 6th, and then everything, all hell broke loose.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we ended up, before any of us knew, because otherwise we would have had to rethink that. We kind of ended up inadvertently, if you will, lucky out, that we had our ride, and then sadly, everything else unfolded with COVID.
Yeah, it was a little bittersweet. We watched it go by, and we were kind of all thinking to ourselves, like, is this it? Because we were kind of all hoping it would go away, but sadly it didn't. But at least we got a little taste of it.
Yeah, the next year we were in COVID mode, and we had specially made masks, and we also had to limit the amount of people on the car.
So how many people are actually in the 40 Fellows?
The funny, I think about 70. Not everybody.
Okay, I was wondering. That's like, there's no way that's 40.
About 70. Sometimes there are guests, not.
So I know that we had mentioned that there were a whole lot of traditions surrounding your parade.
Yeah.
At the streetcar barn, right before y'all ride, when y'all do your toast, it feels like there's like 50 different organizations that all have something special related to the minute that those glasses clasp together, like I know like the Dames de Perlage announced their theme that year at the barn. Just after y'all take off, the Lazy Boys meet typically at Carrollton Station, and they choose their quote unquote royalty for the year.
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of the crews that won't announce their theme or their royalty, until y'all get onto the streetcar.
Well, thank you. I guess the most visible one is and we're delighted, obviously I'm delighted to hear that, but the most visible one is in its tradition, the Crew of Oak. And
Yeah.
because Crew of Oak actually has, a group of gentlemen that are known of as the Wise Men, and they come and toast us, and we toast them.
The Phunny Phorty Phellows royalty are referred to as the Queen and the Boss. The King, in the olden times of Phunny Phorty Phellows, was referred to as the Boss, so that tradition continues. The wise men from the Crew of Oak toast to the previous year's royalty. The Phunny Phorty Phellows then load into the streetcar, and the annual ride begins, with the Storyville Stompers as the accompanying band. The Phunny Phorty Phellows enjoy king cake along the ride, and the folks that get the baby are selected as the new royalty.
I love how y'all keep that tradition though, because I'm not sure anybody else still uses a king cake. You might be it.
Yeah, well, ceremonially, in a ceremonial way, that night, the 12th night revelers, at their ball, they have a huge cake, and a lot of the crew members are dressed as bakers, and there are boxes with beans, and there's a gold bean, because, way before the king cake babies that we know of, the plastic babies, in the olden days, it was a bean. And
Yeah.
And they call it TNR, 12th Night Revelers. There, then the maids take a slice, once again, sort of ceremonial, out of this giant cake, and it's a box. And then that's when they find out if their bean is gold or silver.
I have a couple of those TNR beans in my doubloon collection, by the way. I love them. Because that's such an unusual thing. I think most people never even get to see.
No, later, if you see some of the more traditional French-style king cakes, there's a lot of those traditions like that with baking stem from France, ultimately really Middle Ages. But those are known of. There's some porcelain dolls, especially, some of the king cake, Haydell's does that big time,
Right.
They actually create these porcelain dolls. But that's very French, but it's called a feve, F-E-V-E with an accent. A feve. And today we would just call it the baby or the lucky bean or whatever, but it's called, that's one of the technical historical names.
About the ride, y'all don't typically throw a ton because you do it as, I guess, more like a favor. So whenever you get something from the Phunny Phorty Phellows, it's great. I have a collection of the magnets on my refrigerator.
Oh, good. We have to be very careful.
That's my prize. To get the magnet every year.
My heart. Thank you. What we have to be really careful about, okay, is that because we're in this vehicle that stops and starts, okay, at each block practically, we hand out things very carefully. In terms of throwing, we don't want somebody riding down the street in a car trying to catch us. It's very, very dangerous.
Ms. Peggy expressed the importance of safety with the parade and that they only try to throw when stationary or moving slowly to avoid injuring someone. But also, they're not the crew to see if you're expecting a bunch of throws.
Yeah, magnets, sometimes keychains. But
I've had cups before.
They have PPP on them.
I've had cups before, the little medallion beads, that kind of thing.
Wow, you do. Yeah.
We go every year. It's been our tradition to go sit at Madigan's for years. We've been going, but lately we've been going to the barn. And like last year, I rode in Carrollton, so y'all did the toast with Carrollton.
We met
It's
the
our
captain
100th
and the
anniversary.
queen, and we did a tribute to them. We were thrilled to do that. Yeah, you all
Yeah.
had your 100th anniversry.
That's right. So that was wonderful. We got to meet at the barn, and then we went and did our march right behind you guys.
Yeah.
So that was fun.
Yeah, I was thrilled. We were thrilled to do that, and because we're in your neighborhood.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wish a lot of the parades would get back into the traditional routes like they did. I remember as a kid they were just all over town, and everything on the same route now is just not the same.
Remember
I get
when
it.
Mid-City was in Mid-City?
Oh, yeah. And Pandora was back there and all that. Yeah, I remember. I mean, I was pretty young at the time, but it was fun. You kind of jumped around town all day. I get the reasoning logistically, but
Well, it's
I kind of liked it when it was all in different neighborhoods.
no, the whole concept of neighborhood, the parade in the neighborhoods. One of the few vestiges in terms of neighborhood stuff would be Endymion, in terms of the neighborhood embraces that parade. If you live along the parade route, you have to embrace it. Otherwise, get out of Dodge.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's many hours, as you well know. But in terms of having parades in neighborhoods, I do miss that.
Yeah. I do like some of the new crews. You're seeing like a lot of the West Bank are getting back into the neighborhoods again. A lot of the marching clubs and marching crews are finding their way through neighborhood routes again. So it's not all, big parades on St. Charles, but in essence it is,
Well, it depends. It's like what intrigues you, what interests you. Like, is it if it's how much can I catch and how big can the float be? Well,
Yeah.
to me that's one level, But then if you're looking at the artistry of the procession, and if it's more like a walking through, which can be very clever too, I think that's great too. They don't all have to be, huge.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, each parade brings its own special charm, and that's one of the things that we really get to see with our opportunities to interview all of the different crews and the marching groups is hearing the little changes that each crew brings, and it's just like they always say, when you're listening to a symphony orchestra and you hear all 70 instruments or whatever playing at once, it sounds great. But the minute that tuba stops to catch his breath or whatever, you notice it. You know what I mean? Like,
You gotta have a tuba.
yeah, but without if y'all weren't in our carnival, it would be we would definitely notice it. You know what I mean?
Plus we'd have to wait 3-4 more weeks. But come on.
But each parade, Mid-City. If Mid-City wasn't there, there'd be the special charm that Mid-City brings to the parade season every year.
The foil floats, Mid-City, and
yeah,
they're very unique because of the floats they use the foil, and that's
right.
cool. And I love that they have their own thing. If each parade, can have its own personality, and as you well know, over the last few years now, people have signature throws. Like Muses gives out the shoes. That's
Yeah.
my understanding is Iris gives out decorated sunglasses.
Sunglasses.
And so, some crews have something specific. I'll tell you what's a really charming in quotes parade is Krewe. Because
Oh, yeah.
we grew up making our own parade, our own floats out of the shoe boxes. And so I really think that's a cute idea. And they're very
Have you ever gone into the firehouse before the parade? They have kind of an art showing. It's great.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's just as interesting with T-Rex is when if you walk up and down the route, besides seeing the beautiful floats that they've made, there's people who set up mini crowd scenes, to where they'll take G.I. Joe figures and Transformers and Barbie dolls, and they'll make a a barricade out of like a coat hanger and set it up to where it looks like, you know, G.I. Joe and Barbie were having a lunch together, and you know, they've got the box of chicken on the tarpaulin, and you know, the whole 9 yards. It's, you know, it's so creative that, you know, not just the creativeness of the crew itself, but the spectators as well.
Yeah, it's unbelievable the crowd that parade gets. You know, it's unbelievable the crowd that parade gets because you can only see it if you're in the front row.
Yeah.
And they'll get 5 or 6 deep. But you know, it's a fun, you know, gathering. I guess more than parade, but you know, it's a fun little parade. And Janine,
well, you know, you mentioned also, I'm just thinking about some of my favorite things offhand. And first of all, especially since Katrina, the marching groups like the Dame de Perlange, and they're so creative with their incredible beadwork. You know, we were honored a few years ago. One of the members did something with the streetcar ride and the Phunny Phhellows. We were just really touched by this. But you've got, like you said, the Laissez Boys, and gee, I'm just thinking it goes on and on.
Here, Miss Laborde mentions how she loves, with the advent of the marching groups, it allows people of all socioeconomic groups to participate in Mardi Gras.
Yeah, that is one of the real special things with the marching groups is they make it to where, like you said, you know, I know with some of the parades it costs, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 per rider to ride. You know, I ride in a more modestly priced parade, and even still, after throws and everything, I'm well over $1,000 into the rides.
Yeah.
And you know, with you know, the marching groups, that, you know, some of them I know it's like as low as $42. You know, I mean, to walk in Chewbacca's, it's $42. You know.
No, that is definitely a deal. I'll tell you something else that's very exciting is the baby dolls. Okay, and for folks maybe who are listening and watching, that the baby dolls. What happened was in the early days, in the early 1900s, baby dolls were little groups of primarily African American women who, at that point, were very likely, in quotes, ladies of the evening. All right, and they would walk around Storyville in what was known as Black. Well, we today think of as Black Storyville, closer to where City Hall is, behind the Joy Theater, that area.
Yeah.
And what they would do is they would have their stockings, you know, with the old-fashioned garters, and they'd smoke cigars, and they'd go around the neighborhoods to gentlemen, and they'd say, you know, put the money right here in the stocking, and they would dress as baby dolls. Okay, well, today's groups are certainly not women of ill repute. Have really revitalized that really kind of funky tradition. It's a great idea, you know. And so there are quite a few baby doll groups. It's not just one. And that's
I know there's like I know just off the top of my head like 4 or 5 of them, and I know that I'm missing several of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And let's also talk about the 610 Stompers, okay?
Yeah.
And this is totally changing gears, of course, but back to, we're talking about groups. They are amazing. And I don't know about you, but I was so proud when we, you know, a few years ago, we all saw them at the Macy's Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think the audience, I don't think the, you know, the host of the telecast knew what the heck that was. But they were delightful.
I love that they all went in uniform. They all showed up in uniform, like off the airplane.
Yeah, when we talked with Slab, the founder guy, he had told us that when they were on the plane, they were doing like a flash mob per se of stomper dances, and like you know, he said that you know, to break the fourth wall, that when you're watching like the Macy's Day Parade, really the only time that you see like the dance teams dancing is in like these 2 or 3 spots where NBC, CBS, and ABC are set up. And they were like, No, we started marching like the minute that they were like, okay, you start down here at First Street and go down to 17th Street or whatever. They were like, nope, we're marching the whole way, dancing. And even though they didn't have their music, because the music is only played in those three sections where the cameras are.
I didn't know
They were like, just dance it like you were listening to Uptown Funk or whatever the song, the songs were of their repertoire that year, and they danced it the whole way.
Isn't that funny? I was so proud of them. Yeah, but a lot, like for instance, I have dear friends in the Rolling Elvi, and the Rolling Elvi has a synchronized dance troupe too. The Jailhouse
Yeah.
Rock, they have subgroups within the crew, and they also have the female part, the Priscillas. But there actually are some Elvi who are women. Most people don't realize that.
Yeah, we had found that out from when we interviewed with the Elvi most recently, and also the Rockers. They were telling us, they were like, yeah, there's a handful of women that are now rollers, as they call them, and they were like, and then there's several people who are rollers and rockers, to where they like to make sure that they can participate in as much stuff as they can, so they do both coins,
I wanted to say one thing that I'm especially proud of, and this has just evolved. I can't take none of us can take credit for this. I just love the spontaneity of it. Is that many of the Phunny Fellows are in other groups? And I mean, we have Elvi. We have a lot of other groups too that are within the PPP, and I think that's great. That's great. And I think that contributes to a certain amount of synergy, if you will. And I think about, sometimes I have to stop for a moment and think about the conversations that you all and many of us have, that if we were transported somehow to, Des Moines, and we're talking about working on our costume or what we're handing out, it's just like, this is so bizarre. And, but anyway, it's delightful. But I love the fact that we have other, our members are people involved with Carnival.
I mean, I was really upset that on New Year's Day I couldn't find a place open that sold glitter. And I was like,
Tell
what
her
can I find glitter?
What world do we live in?
It's an emergency. No, but one thing I wanted to say about the
in Mid-City, I think some
craft culture.
uses people culture. Is it glitter culture or culture?
It's
Something?
NOLA craft culture.
Yes, yeah, on Solomon Street.
Yeah, they were closed. They had it was probably glitter on the front porch because they got a lot of deliveries in, but nobody took them in yet. And I was like, no, I can't take that.
Love that.
No, but one thing I want to say about the marching crews, which I don't think they're not looking for the praise for, but they don't get enough credit for, is the amount of community service that they do. Every one of them does amazing work, even with, a 20-member crew. It's unbelievable to me what some of those people put together with such limited resources.
The crew of Rolling Elvi has a major blood drive.
Oh, yeah, we do every year. It's a great event.
And they invite other crews to be involved, too.
Mm-hmm.
So, I do know firsthand about Elvi. They do a lot of good things like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Elvi do great work. I know that the Pussyfooters, they always make a tremendous donation to the Metropolitan Center every year with their blush ball, the Mandy Milkshakers. Every time that they do an event, you see, five and, well into the 5-digit donations that they're making. I know that it was like a $30,000 donation to brain trauma research this year. And, when they do their walk a mile in her shoes, they always make a big donation to the like Safe Harbor and women's shelters and things like that. So and that's just 3 or 4 of the groups that we're talking about here, right? And
the world would really be a different place without the crews. I mean, not only do we need it in our soul, we really do need it in our soul, but we need it financially. I mean, they're a big help for the city in general.
And I could talk about that too, because I was talking to a friend about this. What a lot of people don't realize is the incredible impact Carnival has on the economy. And,
Right.
you know, we're not even talking about, we also need to talk about are the balls, okay?
Yeah.
Once again, they're balls for all. It could be a supper dance. It could be more of a higher end society ball, as it's known, you know. But imagine gowns, makeup, hairdresser, you know, all those things really contribute. There's a lot of money that's spent around this time of the year, you know.
Well, if I remember, I think I saw this stat from one of Mr. Errol's books saying that New Orleans is the #1 purchaser and renter annually of tuxedos, and like that's even over like Los Angeles and New York and Chicago.
Sells more formal wear in New Orleans than in New York. You know,
Yeah.
in the other stores. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a man in New Orleans, don't have a tuxedo by now. I mean, get yourself together. I mean, come on. I think I have 3 or 4 of them. You know?
Tuxedos, you know, then maybe later on, you know, white tie and tails. But you're right, tuxedos. And they're, you know, and they're also tuxedos for all pocketbooks. You can get something that looks pretty good for not so much money. You know.
Well, I could tell you my first couple came from having to go to a rental shop and buying them for, I don't know, $80, $100, and you know, wasn't bad at all.
Exactly.
And
Yeah,
they'll trim them for you if you need it. So you know, you make do with what you have and go have fun with it.
That's just one that they're pretty reasonably priced. I know that.
So you had mentioned balls, you know, something that's very, you know, held in a lot of people's traditions with you and Mr. Errol is y'all host the Rex Ball. I mean, as long as I can remember, and you know, I know that there's people who their Mardi Gras isn't over until they watch y'all, and I know there's even some people that have like little, shall we call them drinking games and traditions to where like, you know, like when Mr. Errol starts sweating, you take a drink, you know, like if you see, you know, a pretty girl who gets flabbergasted when she's meeting the king, you have a drink, you know, when you toast, you know, like there's I've seen lists of them on, you know, Reddit and you know, online.
Yes.
So,
no, and we're very proud that we can do that. Let me back up. Many of us grew up with watching the original meeting of the courts. Yeah, I'd love to kind of explain a little bit of this. The original meeting of the courts took place, and then, you know, God bless, we missed the auditorium from 11:30 to 12. That was when the Rex court went over to Comus Ball, and they were right next to each other. There were
Right.
balls going on at almost the same time. Comus was skewed a little bit later, but anyway, at 11:30, and that is when there was the meeting of the court. And that aired on WCSU from the 50s until the early 90s. Sadly, it was discontinued. And in 1997, WYES, Rex organization asked WYES if we were interested in portraying, chronicling the ball, you know, on TV, because they were celebrating their 125th anniversary. So I said, they contacted me, and I said, yes, we really want to do the meeting of the courts as well. That's such a tradition. And thankfully, the crew of Comus did say yes. So what you're seeing is a much larger version of what many of us grew up with. Okay. Now, if you're younger, since 1997, maybe that's all you grew up with. Okay. So you're not used to the half-hour version. Our show, as you know, it's live in 3 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
It's the quickest 3 hours and 45 minutes, I hope. Okay. And we do try, you know, to give you the, you know, the color and play-by-play. We are thrilled that Rex and Comus give you a front row seat. And so it's fun. Now, you know, it's funny though, but if I'm talking to somebody outside of New Orleans, they would think I was crazy. what? You're televising a ball. That doesn't sound real exciting. But, we have a good time. We also roll in a lot of historical features. We give you a lot of Carnival history. So, that's about a 12-camera shoot. It sounds like we're doing the Olympics.
Yeah.
But it's a big effort, as you can well imagine.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can.
It's great
I can
that it's shown. It's great that it's shown though, because forever that was a closed society. So you had no idea what happened there unless you were fortunate enough to get that invitation. So being able to see it's wonderful.
It's kind of them to do that,
Mhm.
definitely. But that we're in effect, you become a guest of the ball,
Mhm.
and what's been very interesting, Rex, still has a parade, and it's a magnificent parade, and so we get to talk about, how the day went, and that enhances, and then we have special guests. We might have, royalty, we might have some dignitaries, we mix it up, we have interviews, so we do try to keep it moving, and as I hope that you think so too. Yes, we get a lot of reactions. Also air on Facebook Live and YouTube, and so we are shown all over the world, and we know, like, that somebody is watching it in Korea. Or France. I mean, you see where people watch. Yeah, in America, lots of viewers in New York, the major cities, and then the regions. But we actually figured that out. They have the analytics.
Yeah, it's probably some poor New Orleanian stuck out of town Mardi Gras Day.
Yeah, if you're staying in Colorado, you could watch it.
Like, no. So this is your 27th, 8th year? How long have you been doing this?
1997. So 28, I guess 28th technically. Well, I mean, we lost a year with COVID, but that year we had to make a big decision. Well, first of all, it was just that, it was going to be, then we're going to do it. But what we did instead is we ran the previous year's balls.
Yeah.
So if somebody
something else, John.
Sad, but we understood, for safety. So we made that decision, like, rather than not have anything, 3 hours and 45 minutes on Mardi Gras night, we just aired last year's balls. So you're right. I guess technically it would be the 27th, but the 28th year, if that makes sense.
That year is all blurred. I mean, because I don't go by New Year's. I go by Mardi Gras. So, like, we didn't have it that year. So that year just kind of doesn't exist. I'm going to erase it from memory and move on. And that makes me a year younger, too.
But back to what I was talking about the gowns, the ball gowns, the queen gowns, the attention paid, and we're not even talking about Comus and Rex, just anybody who has a ball,
Oh yeah.
Whether it's just a ball or a ball that's attached to a parade, the incredible care and artistry that goes into that, into the mantle, that they wear in the back.
Yeah,
here, all of this, the collar. All of that.
So the parade that we ride in is the Krewe Excalibur.
Yes.
And our captain actually is the owner and operator of D&D Creation. So when I go to, like, pay dues and stuff like that, I go to the dress shop and I'll see, the beautiful work that they're doing, to where, she'll be like, don't put your hands down on anything because you'll come up with, like, hands of just glitter, and I mean, they do amazing work. And I know that they're not the only ones, but, I see the most of their work. And I mean, it's beautiful.
All those bugle beads, all those sequins, all that lace. I mean, that's a lot of handiwork. I mean, those things are made by hand. I mean, this in terms of the detail, actually on the dress themselves, the crystals, oh yeah. When every year, as you may know, I describe both the Queen of Carnival's gown and the Queen of Comus's gown, and it's quite a mouthful.
Yeah.
Because they're very elaborate. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm also friends with someone who is a wire sculptor for the giant collars that all of the royalty and maids and dukes wear. And, you know, even without the fabric and the sequins and the glitter and all that, you know, when you just step back and see the wire work that goes into supporting all of that artwork, it's a work of art, you know? I mean, and that's not just me kissing butt to my friend, you know?
That's artistry. You're right. Even something like a scepter and some of the shoes. If you look at the complexity of the design of some of the scepters, I was holding a scepter just recently in terms of some of the carnival coverage we're working on from a major organization. It must have weighed 5 pounds. So think about these queens who, you know, now the mantles by and large, they're on rollers, but they're still heavy, okay? And then they're the collar and the mantle, all of that is attached. So they have to learn. And you know, there are women in the community who are amazing. They teach what they call carnival etiquette. And so the queens take lessons as bowing and moving or maneuvering all of this, because there's a lot going on with the movement. And
never knew.
So, they have to practice. Otherwise, it looks like they're dragging something. And you know, you know. Yeah, that's a lot of work.
So be honest with me. When you had that scepter in your hand, did you give it the?
I did not. You know, I should have.
I'll believe that for a second.
I have to tell you, it's a very, I guess, natural response. I was shocked how heavy it was. And I kept telling the young lady, you know, who will be using it, and it's like, what? I was just really shocked how heavy it was. That's all. That was my not so creative response.
I'm not sure I believe that. Yeah.
That's what happened. I'm ashamed. I wish I had a more creative story.
So have you ever been on royalty in Mardi Gras?
No.
It feels like by now.
No, you.
It feels like by now you would have been.
No. Thank you. I'm perfectly content with what my role is in Carnival, and really thrilled if I can, you know, enhance the experience of others. No, I don't. That's okay.
I'm kind of with you. I have no desire to be.
Twice. I've only ridden twice in terms of in a parade.
Oh, wow.
And that, I mean, apart from PPP, you know.
Yeah.
In terms of a more, you know, what we think of as parades, and those were really great experiences. And especially one in particular where it was Iris. I'll tell you, my dear sister was pregnant with her first child, and so she felt like she really should be past, you know, that. So she asked me for her to ride. She had the costume, and she said, you know, if you want to just get some drugs, if you want to do this, it's fine. Well, it was my birthday. Okay. And we turned onto Canal Street, and I've heard about that. So you're going down St. Charles Avenue, St. Charles Street, you know, the narrower warehouse district, and you turn out into Canal, and it's really quite the experience, you know, visually. And so that was very, very exciting. Now, speaking of birthday, this past year, in 2024, my birthday, on Mardi Gras Day.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I remember seeing y'all mention it on the.
It's March the 4th. It's my husband Errol's birthday.
Oh goodness.
What are the odds?
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of fun.
No, I'm kind of with you though. I've never had any desire to be royalty or anything. I like riding.
I enjoy watching others, you know, be royalty. May I just say one last thing about birthdays? This was the biggest surprise I've had in a long time. Mardi Gras night. A Rex lieutenant in the middle of the broadcast arrived with this beautiful bouquet of flowers to wish me happy birthday on the air. I was stunned. You know, it was a fun surprise.
He probably got in trouble for breaking formation.
Anyway.
So you know, to bounce back to the Phunny Phorty Phellows. So y'all are riding this coming Monday at 7 o'clock is official roll.
We gather a little after 6 and to decorate, the streetcar. And once again, we have to be very careful because, safety first. And,
Right.
And so we gather and we board the streetcar. So we have our pomp and circumstance, with the crew of oak and our toasts about 6:40. And then we all get on the streetcar, and at 7 we try to roll. We try to stay on time.
Yeah.
And so that is our tradition. And because it also, it affects the neighborhood. A lot of people do to come out, but we really always have to be mindful of safety and we have fun, and we advise our members.
Are y'all going to be doing any kind of a meetup with Joan of Arc? From what I understood, they're starting a little different.
Intersect.
Well, I thought that I'd understood from their founders that this year they were backing up their time a little bit, and that it almost seemed like she didn't officially tell me it at that moment, but I'd kind of gotten the idea that it sounded like they were going to try and do a meetup with y'all, even by breaking their route at a certain point to come run up and toast y'all. So I was just curious if
it'll be a lovely surprise, and of course it's welcome.
Okay.
I do know the captain and co-captain,
Yeah.
and so if that happens, we would welcome it. But my understanding was that their route was, kind of totally different. But maybe that will happen.
It was a surprise.
That would be great. But I applaud what they do. I wish that I could clone myself because I love to see their procession. But we can't. It can't be in two places.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's the problem that we run into. That there's a couple of the crews that we've interviewed that, either we've only gotten to see them via pictures and video after the fact, or that we just have never gotten to see them because they roll at the same time that we do, in one of our parades, or just a situation where, like you said, I can only be in so many places at one time, to where it's like, as much as I'd love to see, Endymion and Isis at the same time, every year I have to make a decision of which one am I going to make this year,
Yes, exactly. Exactly. You just can't. You can only stretch yourself out so much.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I know. I wish that they would roll at another time, because it sounds they're doing something very different with the medieval costumes and the procession. Joan of Arc, who is one of my patron saints. I'm Catholic. I collect statues of saints, and one of them is Joan of Arc. But I applaud some of their old world traditions. But I can't say.
Yeah, they seem like they're growing and changing up a little here and there, and becoming themselves really a cohesive unit. It would be fun to watch if y'all could, join forces at some point. Then we would have only one place to go to.
Yeah.
I'd be surprised. Maybe that's a special surprise. I'm not sure, but certainly, and I admire their artistry. I really do.
Yeah. So I know that we're getting close to a time when you needed to head out. Again, do you want to give some plugs to your YES work? I mean, every week I know that you do Steppin Out in New Orleans, and
WYES website, WYES.org. We have a few things, and thank you for allowing me to do that. January 25th, we have an event at the station. And if you've never been to WYES, it's really nice. We have a lovely space. We're in Lakeview. We're right behind Delgado. We're independent of Delgado, but we are located right behind them. On January 25th, it's called The Whole Day or most of the day. It's called King Cake and Conversation. And so Errol Laborde and Arthur and I will be showing, we have this show that we've aired the last few years called Parades in the Past. We have this wonderful rare footage of home movies of parades. And
Yeah.
so we have a show like that that airs on WYES. We'll do a mini version of that for folks who are, one of our studios can be like an auditorium. And so our people visiting and buying tickets to fundraiser for the station will be able to see these rare home movies of different parades, and Errol and Arthur and I will comment on those live while you're watching. So that'll be fun. And then we'll have some other talks about king cakes and about Mardi Gras generally. And then we also have part of the ticket price, which is very reasonable, is have a king cake tasting. You get to taste about 20 different king cakes. So that's fun. And then we'll do our special edition with Arthur and Errol of Steppin Out of Carnival Tours. And look for that air date at WYES.org. And then we'll have other, I'm sure, related Carnival programs. Over the years, we've really amassed quite a few documentaries. I did a show about Mardi Gras called Mardi Gras, the Passing Parade, the childhood memories of Mardi Gras. That airs every year. I also involved on a show called While We Dance to the Music of Mardi Gras, because music culture is rich with carnival-related songs. And so all kinds of things like that. So we'll have a general actual schedule that you can see on our website. And then, live Mardi Gras night at 7 o'clock Central Time. We'll be doing the Red Call and the Middle of the Courts. And, one of my favorite parts of that is the Marine military, the band, the U.S. Marine. Unbelievable. For about 20 minutes, they pay homage to Rex, if you will, by participating. And to have them too, but they are just great. The Marine band.
Every year, that's how I end my Mardi Gras, is watching y'all and enjoying all of the artwork and soaking in all of the history that y'all tell about the Rex organization and the carnival traditions that, just because it didn't happen in my family doesn't mean that the tradition doesn't exist. You know what I mean?
Let me leave you with one other thing, is that in many of these parades, maybe not all, but many of the parades, instead of focusing on how much can I catch, look at the artistry of the floats. Because something like an example would be, of course, Rex. They take great care with the feet and portraying their scene over the course of their floats. So not every organization can afford to have brand new floats every year. We do floats every year. Some can, and some can't. But there's still artistry on every parade if you look for it. So if your hands can be up, but look closely at the float itself, because there have been a lot of man-hours. A lot of that people say is figures. Some of them are fiberglass, but a lot of them are made by hand, especially Rex. Rex is an example of protein, too. And then you have the satirical parades like Coup d'etat and Chaos. Those really can be outrageous. You've got humor in the parades, too, but you've got a lot of beauty. So I would ask everybody to consider look at the float, less for beads and more for the beauty of it too. Okay.
Well, every year we try to take as many pictures as we can of the parade, and it's part of it is to be able to share it with our social media fans and whatnot, but it's also for our appreciation. That like you said, when that parade is zooming past you, sometimes you don't get the full chance to get all of the appreciation of the jokes on some of the satirical floats. The flower work, the artwork, the story that they're telling on each float, and to get pictures of it and be able to go back and enjoy it. That's something really special.
Yes, and Data generously opens their den for the doubloon collectors every year. So every year I take a chance to walk around all the floats and kind of see all the jabs a little better. Because
Yeah. Well, thank you all for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much.
About this. We live it, but it's nice to talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like if time permitted, we could easily sit here and talk for 25 hours. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes. And one last plug: funnyphortyphellows.com. PH.
yeah,
Obviously, Phunny Phorty Phellows, everything PH, funnyphortyphellows.com, because that has the route and more information and past photos, of the crew, and WYES.org. We are the Mardi Gras station. There's so much Mardi Gras programming. So check it out. Every year on Steppin Out, our show, our entertainment show, on Thursdays between January 6th and Mardi Gras, we'll always have something Carnival related. I can assure you the Poppy Tooker this Thursday will be showing the pancake.
oh yeah, oh
Thank you very much. Okay.
yeah. So thank you so much. So
Happy Mardi Gras. Take
yeah,
care.
have a happy Mardi Gras. Signing out. We will see you on the route.
Okay. Thank you.